Bob called me at the last minute and had to go rescue someone with a flat tire, so he won't be here tonight, but asked me to lead the meeting. So our first agenda item is C1, approval of the minutes from our March 21st meeting. Anyone have any changes or additions to the minutes? And if not, can we have a motion to approve as presented?
So moved.
Thank you, David. Second? Thanks, Jennifer. All right, we have a motion and a second to approve the minutes as presented. All in favor, please raise your hand. Oh, I'm sorry, Linda. Everybody raise their hand. Any opposed? All right, thank you. All right. Next item is C2, current Parks and Recreation organization chart, which is included in the packet. Robert, do you have any comments?
Well, I just wanted to let you guys know, I know this came up at the last meeting on kind of where we are, staffing wise, and I didn't give you, it didn't go full detail, but I figured this was probably good enough to get all of you kind of an idea of where we are structurally. It shows the rec side and the park side of how we are staffing. I do want to, only thing I want to bring up, Jeff Fairchild, our special events manager, decided to leave. His last day was yesterday. So we wished him well in his endeavors. He had a great, I think he's been here 6 years. A lot of cool events have, you know, been under his watch while he was here. So we also have, I don't know if y'all remember, Sandy, who was the special events coordinator. So she's been gone about a month. So we had her position open, but now that Jeff is gone, so we're gonna kind of have that person we're gonna hire that person first. That way they'll have to be able to choose who they want as coordinator. So they're both open right now. We opened the special events manager up a couple days ago, I think Tuesday. So our goal is to get that, you know, we've got, so at this point, Megan Bernard, who was the assistant manager, is the interim until we get someone permanent position. So, but Jeff was great. He was able to, he worked the last Denton Drive, if any of you got to go, and that was a really good event, last weekend. He said we had about 2,000 people, so I think that's a very good turnout. I think those, we had the Hard Nights band and another one anyway. It went really well. So, but I'm open if you guys have any questions on our structure at this point. And Mark and Jessica are here. If you have any questions, they can answer those if you got any questions on kind of who's doing what.
Just curious, if to the extent you're able to talk about it, where did Jeff go? Did he go to like?
I had heard maybe he's going to City of Addison, or Town of Addison, but I'm not entirely sure. So I think he had another opportunity. So, yeah.
Can I give some feedback on the Denton Drive Live? I thought it was fantastic. I thought it was a fantastic event. And, you know, now it's in the historical park. The only thing was, my question was gonna be, was it because there was more people than they anticipated because we didn't have enough food vendors there? So for example, from the time I went to order the food, to the time I had the food was 45 minutes, but it wasn't their fault. It wasn't the vendor's fault. And really had one vendor that was selling Cajun food, and one that was, you could get a corny dog, and one was dessert. So compared to previous ones, seems like there were more food options and more food vendors. And I didn't know if maybe it was just because we had a lot more people show up than we thought were gonna show up.
I think, well, that probably is one. I think the other one is we have been having issues with some of the food vendors. I know.
Sometimes they won't show up, and that's, yeah, we don't have control over that, but you schedule plenty.
I know.
So there were gonna be more than 3 that night?
Yes.
Only 3 showed up?
Do we want to talk about this now? Because I had some thoughts too, or do we?
Actually, we should probably do it when we
Okay.
talk
Yeah,
about
'cause we got-
events you've attended.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's do that.
That'd be a better place to put that. Okay, any other questions or anything about the organization chart? Okay. We will move on to our next item, which is a review of the renderings for Mercer Park and Squire Park. Robert, I think we're probably back to you.
Yeah, so these, I know this came up at the last meeting too. We're kind of trying to close some loops from the last meeting, a lot of these items tonight. These are the renderings. I'm hoping a lot of you saw these already. These are kind of not new, but these are things that we had, a consultant put together about a year ago.
Of a year and a half.
To look at the site over there in the Mercer Crossing area. I'll look at Mercer first, because I think I've got them both in here. So really from the feedback we got from the residents and things like that, so the developer is currently out there, and I think I mentioned the last meeting, doing some of the park area to the south or near the lake. If you pull up the site map that's got it's the one like this, it's got the full site map on it. So the area, if you look at the bottom, where kind of the area close to the lake, they've got the developer is putting in the trail and and we'll have final grades out there. And then we're gonna put in the irrigation, and they're gonna also put in water and electric connections so we can tie into those. And then there's a couple other things they've got and there's a development agreement that they're responsible for. And then because currently even the land is owned by the developer still. We haven't gotten the land yet. So once they finish some of the improvements they have, then they will turn it over to the city. But what we're looking at is we're considering phase 1 to kind of be the area that's got the pickleball and the tennis court on it. And then phase 2 would be everything kind of where the playground is located on that. It's the kind of the south side of the park closer to the lake. So, what we're gonna be doing is working on the design specifically for that pickleball tennis court area. And that's what we'll do initially. And then that's kind of what we're moving toward right now. So we will bring back to the board final design. This is still conceptual on how it all will lay out specifically. Because when they do this, they're not looking at engineering and some of those kind of things. So once they kind of do some of that work, they'll bring back a final design, and we'll let the board see kind of how that looks moving forward. And then we'll look at the next phase after that. Yes, sir.
The biggest question I get from the residents there in Mercer Park who are really looking forward to it, do we have any kind of a realistic timeline?
The phase 1, we're looking to have design completed this year.
Okay.
And then hopefully hopefully have it bid out into the year, or early next year. I don't see a long construction time for that phase because it's a lot of concrete work, because it's mainly the courts.
Yeah.
But, I mean, I would hope by the end of 25, phase 1 is done, if not earlier. If everything goes okay on bidding and things like that.
When the developer started moving some dirt, that's when everybody got excited. They thought, okay, is it happening?
And some of those improvements they're putting in are usable. So they're putting in the trail connection. So if you look on there, there's a trail that goes from, is that Whittington?
Mhm.
Side street. It's Whittington that all goes around to right about where the park is.
Mhm.
It runs all the way to the main sidewalk that's there, so they actually can use. That's what it does here. Where it comes here,
Right, uh-huh.
that sidewalk's already, and they've already put this in all the way around to Whittington.
Oh, it goes all the way, okay.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
So that trail will be in, and then that area, so we're gonna go ahead and probably go ahead and either sod or seed some of that area after we get it irrigated to the south, where the trail is. So that part of the park will be usable and it'll be open. And so then we'll move to the northern face. So there'll be some things that'll be usable there. And the trail connection, that's a huge part of that, because I think, especially if you live in that neighborhood, I mean, you can almost that's a nice little walk if you do the circle trail with the roadways and stuff like that. So, and they're doing the 12-foot trail.
10 or 12 foot wide.
It's the largest, yeah, I think, yeah, it's 10 or 12 foot, so it's gonna accommodate a lot of two-way traffic. which I think is what the rest of Mercer is the larger 12 foot. So, but we'll be, so that's kind of the plan going forward on Mercer. And we'll get back to the board with the final drawings on this, so you all can kind of see where we are and where it ends up. Once they start doing engineering and things like that, they could change a little bit.
Well, the developer really sold that park when he sold houses and townhomes out there. They really sold the park like it was gonna be.
And this area too is close to on the south side of the lake is where the amenity center is. They already have a playground there. And I think the trail goes all the way around the lake. I think it does. Yeah, so, yeah, you've got a really nice amenity there. Once all this gets done, it's gonna be really nice. So,
Well, thanks for including this, and I had not seen it before, but then also I'm new on the board.
okay,
So,
good.
This is the first time.
Good.
So here's the question I have for you. Are all those houses, are those already built? Are those already?
No, so the developer has completed a lot of the site work, the grading and put in the utilities, so they can't issue a CO to start building, or they can't issue they can't proceed in building until we get the park and all the site work done and approved.
Until they've met our needs that we've requested as a city. So as y'all know, sometimes developers kind of don't finish what they're supposed to do. We're holding them and we're not giving them any building permits until it is time. We've seen fit what they've done for us.
Okay, good.
So
Makes sense.
What's good?
No?
I think is there any other questions on Mercer?
Right?
And then the other one, if you go past, I think there's a red divider there. You see the site plan for Squire Park. Again, this is just conceptual, but this is kind of to bring everybody up to snuff on kind of what some ideas that were presented to council and things in the past. I'm not sure if you all saw this or not, to be honest with you.
No.
Okay. So,
Well, I'm like David, I'm new.
Yeah.
So-
That's
right,
And any also, because there was a first conceptual drawing that was just way out there. And then this one kind of tamed it down a little bit. And we've got another one where we're getting someone to start drawing where it actually fits in that area.
So my question is actually to Steve, because I know Steve made comments about this park thing, about the parking, and it looks like there's that E right there, there is parking there that, so does that kind of get?
well, currently it's just there's just street parking there now. It's just a small neighborhood park. One of the things conceptually we looked at was actually adding a parking lot. That's what you see there.
Yeah, I mean, that's the point Steve is making,
Yeah.
that's a good thing, it's a good thing.
Right.
And I know it's kind of hard.
Well, that's what Steve, is. So you were saying, there's no place to park that.
It's not a destination. You want people who can walk to that park and walk home is what it was initially designed for. It wasn't designed, now I understand the splash pad will bring in some people, but again, does the neighborhood want so many people? I think we've seen some pushback now on Hoya from the nearby neighborhood as to how many people it drew in. They have it, the current amenities in the park are aged and probably beyond their useful life. And we agreed when we did the 10-year plan that this was a high priority to change out in the 10-year plan. But do we want to completely change the personality of this park?
Well-
And in the process, take out some significant trees.
And those trees are good. Because I did, go ahead.
We were out there this week, just your concerns is our concerns. There's a lot of mature trees out there that we don't want to do damage to. There's already playgrounds in those areas, but we don't want a hodgepodge of new, old in this. We want to give them a decent place to play. But that's why we don't like this. And we've this week met with a gentleman to try to come up with some solutions, and he loves the trees as well. So we wanted to look, and we did discuss this not being, the parking lot not being there, maybe moving it down here where it's
That's what I
already
thought.
open.
That's where I thought. it was gonna
But
go.
I will say that this area here, there is no trees in that area, just
It holds the.
Yes. One of the concerns with this area is in the evenings with the neighbors and the amount of parking, because a lot of those houses have only single drives that they all park on the street. So then it doesn't allow, if you are a resident or not, you live in the neighborhood and you want to drive to it, there's nowhere to park. That kind of captures that. We also are concerned about the splash pad. We've had discussions about that because we've also heard people not wanting that in their neighborhood. They don't want an attractant per se. So we're taking all that under consideration.
And
Going
along that,
back to your parking issue, sorry, Jim.
that's okay.
But going back to your parking issue, does that parking lot then become overflow parking because the residents will only have one garage?
And that's one of the things that we pointed out, that there would be definitely, there would be no parking there at night. And that's how you kind of curve that, so nobody parks their vehicle there that's broke down and leaving it in there versus being in their driveway. So we're taking everything under consideration and trying to get that figured out, because that was some of our concerns as well.
Well, another comment I've heard is, oh, they're starting to put splash pads in all of our parks.
Nope.
So I know that's not what we've discussed, but I'm wondering if you put one here, who's gonna ask for it next in their
Yes.
park? Because we obviously have a variety of parks with playground equipment, but not splash pads. So it's probably something to think about.
We've been racking our brains trying to figure out a good place for it, and where it doesn't impact anybody, if it's a draw for more people to come to it. Any splash pad that we're planning on putting in, it's not gonna be a splash pad where you're waiting and all that. It's gonna be more of a misting type thing.
Misting station.
Well, not, yeah, kind of, sort of, but it would have features that mist, but the water goes down. You don't have to worry about catching any bacteria or anything like that. It's fresh water.
It's gonna be something that would fit a neighborhood park setting, not necessarily something you see with an aquatics facility that you need to necessarily, it's just a place for kids to get wet. And it's not gonna have, a lot of the like the aquatic type elements, like even we have here with lots of water. It's more of just, and so what we'll probably end up doing is, we'll get the board included on kind of what we're looking at when we get some designs. Cause I definitely want to get, cause what I don't want to do is have this go to council and they don't, typically how I've worked is the board is kind of giving the okay before we go to council. That's your guys' role as an advisory board. So anything like this park wise for Mercer or for here, and you're seeing conceptual drawings, that doesn't mean it's how it's gonna be. That just gives you all an idea of what could be there. But as we get into the details of the actual design of the park, we'll bring those back to the board and have you all look at it. Because I think it's important to have your input, because we need you all as we move it up the chain, because, because once we say we go, before we even bid something out, I want to be able to have buy-off from council and from park board. Okay, this is what we want to go do. Because what we don't want to happen is we get approval, all of a sudden, like, wait, we don't want to do that now, well, we've already bid this out, and that's how we're going to do it, so. But I do know there were some discussions initially with someone in the neighborhood, and so, we might do a little bit of outreach once we kind of get more into the design, and just to kind of maybe get some feedback. I think that might be good for the board to hear some of that myself, because I haven't heard of it either.
Yeah, and I would just like to address Barbara, because this is the, one of the parks that I did the inspection on. And so I was there an hour. So we're talking about an hour out of, and there were 5 groups that came and 4 out of the 5 drove. Now, and it was in the middle of the afternoon. It was a beautiful day. When did we do our inspection?
Well, back in the fall,
Yeah,
yeah.
fall. It was a beautiful day. And no, it was, and 4 out of the 5 groups, they drove and they parked out on the street. So that's why I parked.
Any other thoughts or questions about Squire Park? All right. We'll move on to the update on Denton Drive construction and the outdoor ice rink.
just a couple new bullets on here. We have reached out to one of Jeff's things he did before he left, and I'll have Megan follow up, is getting some costs from ProGlide that was discussed at the last meeting. And then also, we've got to circle back with the stars on. So I think we discussed this last time. We think that the land where the current rink is, I think it will be sold at some point because there'll be apartments there. So the question is, when is that sale gonna be? And are we gonna be able to put stuff back there? And if we can put it back there and it's sold, would the seller let us at least get one more year to have ice in that area? And so those are questions we haven't got answered yet. So we've got both things kind of working right now, and we'll get a update to the board at the next meeting, kind of where we are. If we get any updates before that, we'll email you, but at this point, probably we'll get something for sure by the next meeting, so.
Okay.
And
Anybody
they
have-
are started construction because I was just by there earlier, we're going to the historical park. It's a construction zone over there if you're out in that area, so.
Anybody have any other questions or comments? All right. Next is an update on Gateway to the Globe.
Well, this is, before Jeff left, he was able to put this together after the event. It just kind of gives you the highlights of the event. I attended, Mark was there, and so was Jess, so, I know Jan was there, so, and a lot of you were, so this just kind of gives you a little bit of insight as from an event standpoint. About 2,100 attendants, some of the revenues we brought in, concessions. I'm assuming that 40,000 is staffing and everything. I think that's a total turnkey
Okay,
staffing amount.
I was wondering how we were feeling about that compared to revenue when I saw those numbers, but,
Well, I think too, it's a new event, and so I think as it grows, that could change a little bit. We'll kind of, was kind of throwing a lot of things at it. We'll kind of, I think it'll be tweaked as it kind of ages, the event matures a little bit. I think we'll start to tighten that up some.
So forgive me, I thought it was a great event. And I'm new on the board, so what did we do before we did this? What was there some kind of event that was done before this, or?
one time we had, Robert, you may have, somebody else may have more details than I remember. One time we did a cultural event.
I believe it was the Heritage,
Viva Farmers Branch.
Viva Farmers Branch. It
Viva.
was in September the year, I believe the year previous.
Mhm.
And it had a pretty good turnout, but, with our community becoming more multifaceted with different nationalities, they didn't want to have just one event. They
Right.
wanted to bring everybody together and let's celebrate together. And that's how we ended up with the Globe event. I will say my staff and Jessica's staff that worked it and everything else, they actually had a blast for once and they weren't excuse me. They weren't complaining about having to work overtime, but they were very fascinated themselves for an event that allowed them to see other cultures and dances. So it was interesting, to
I
say the
think-
least.
I think it was a great way to respond to the various cultures that had said, well, if we're gonna do Viva, let's do this and this, and it wouldn't be feasible to do 20 different
Right.
Different events.
unique events.
Yes, ma'am.
And so I think this was a great response to that.
And they had a very good turnout with the dancers and stuff. Once the word got out, they had all kinds of people beating down the door, wanting to get up, and different clubs wanting to do their dance.
And the other thing, not to beat a dead horse here, but they had lots of different food choices, lots of different food vendors. There was.
Yes, sir.
And it wasn't really a big line in EM either too, so I thought that was good. I thought it was a great event, really, really well done.
Just to give the board, so council at the meeting earlier this week, I think Councilman Jackson wanted an update similar to kind of what we're doing with you all tonight. So, we're preparing to just give them a recap, little presentation at the think it's May 21st, the second meeting. So, and it's really, a lot of the information you're seeing is gonna be very similar. We're just gonna put it in as during a study session, they just kind of wanted to see very same questions you all had. How many people, revenues, all that kind of stuff. So, the committee task force is finished. So it was, I think it had a year, there was a task force put together by council to kind of oversee this event. I think it was 10 people on the task force. So that was part of what Jeff and his team, they worked and had meetings, from the inception, which I think was last March, up to, I think it was this April. And so I think that's the other reason council wants to talk about is, okay, the task force is done. How did it go? And so Megan, who's still on staff, will be able to speak to some of that because she attended all those meetings and we'll answer any of those questions council has. So just FYI.
And forgive me for stating the obvious, but I think the biggest question that's gonna be asked is just what you asked right off the bat. Cost us $40,000 to do it, and we got $5,000 in revenue, so we lost $35,000 in the event. What do we think about that? Is that something we want to keep doing? You want to keep, is there something could be done to make it so you don't lose so much money? Or I guess that'd be a big part of it.
Well, it's one of those, I think we just have to be responsible with budgeting, but there are I'd say for most part, there's not a lot of events that we do, we're gonna be in, where we're gonna make everything back. It's not gonna be recovering 100%. So,
Um,
just,
Question to that point. Was there this time, or is there potential in the future for hotel tax revenues on this if people come in for this event?
If the event was to grow,
maybe,
possible.
So that's an offset to revenue or to expense.
Once again, I thought it was a great event. I'm just trying to answer the questions you're gonna be asked. My guess is that you hit it right off the bat. That's
Yep.
the first question. It's kind of glaring.
Well, and it may be, I don't know if this is going to be one of those events that we do because it's the right thing to do in our city to bring people together and we just
Yeah.
budget to cover most of the expense versus expecting it to be self-sustaining.
Most events that you put on is city puts on, that everybody gets together and say, yes, let's put this event on. There really isn't ever a break even point. It's more a giving back to the people and the residents. You're paying your taxes. It's a way of the city to give it back to you,
Right.
a roundabout way.
Margaret?
I will say that I heard no negatives. In a lot of the events, people will come up and say, well, this and this and this. But it was a very positive event, and I heard many people say, I hope this is one we continue to do.
Yeah, I heard that.
So,
It was well done.
it was very
Yeah.
well.
Okay, no more comments? All right. Then we will move on to, the Park and Recreation Department update.
I'll turn this over to Mark and then I'll have Jess give updates on the venue and the branch connection.
Okay,
And I'll have it up here, so kind of what
Yes.
Mark's gonna go through.
Dutch Village.
all right, there it is.
We finally got insurance to get out there to do their assessment on it. And thank goodness we have coverage.
Good.
They're gonna cover us to a certain point,
Mhm.
and we're gonna have to budget part of it. It's still sitting just the way it is, except it has a temporary fence around it. We're just waiting for the okay in case they have to go out to do any more judging to it. But I'm ready to get it out because we're paying rental for a fence and then we just want it gone. So that's where we are with that. The John Burke Nature Preserve. Thank goodness, I ran into you ladies the day of the event and they finally passed it so that we can get our septic in. There's been a holdup due to the fact of the weather and trying to get the contractor out there. They want perfect good weather to get in there, dig it, because we're kind of dealing with slopes to get it to the way it needs to be. Hoya. We're working on that as it is. There's some concerns that we have. We're meeting with the compound, the playground person, and there's few items that we as staff are not happy with. And we're still working with them and we're still holding off on fulfilling our part if they're not fulfilling theirs. So
Okay,
that's where we're at.
Just Lisa, I want just to kind of go over our staffing and how we've kind of, on the operation side.
Yes, so at Hoya, we no longer staff Monday through Thursday. While we operated spring break and a couple of weeks after spring break, we kept track of numbers. And so there wasn't enough numbers to justify the staffing, paying the staffing needs out there. So we do staff Fridays, starting around 4 or 5, once kids get out of school, parents get off work, can get out there. And then we staff Saturdays and Sundays. And so it's been great. There haven't really been a lot of, concerns about parking or overcrowding or anything like that. We still have the staff camera that I still log on to daily. And so Monday through Thursday, it's pretty light. Especially because people are still having to go to school, and then Fridays, Saturdays, and Sundays from the camera view during the day when there's no staffing. It looks like it's just regular park traffic. And so in the summertime, though, once school gets out, probably a week before school gets out, because school districts are differently, we will monitor it closer to see what our summer anticipation's looking like. And so if we need to push out additional staffing, our staff is ready to go. But we don't want to push it out too early, pay for all the staff to just stand out there and no one's showing up Monday to Thursday. So we are going to just monitor that a little bit more closer. That equipment's gonna get hot in the summer. It will. I'm not sure if you're gonna get the crowds at least. Yeah. And then this weekend where there's a lot of precipitation in the forecast, I foresee it being a light crowd, not as many people. So then we're able to reduce staffing at that point because it's gonna self-regulate itself out there with the overcast going on. So there's a lot of things that play into factor, whether we deploy the staff or we don't deploy them.
Which part of your thing gonna get hot, the slides?
Yeah, just the park in general. It's not covered. There's not a lot of tree cover.
No, there's not, and
So the whole park will get.
that's where it's gonna be a while before the shade trees get there.
Yeah.
They did take into consideration for the shade structures to try to get it around to somewhat shade the areas, so in the morning and then in the evening it gets it. I know there was a lot of concerns about the metal slides that went in. That is starting to be more of I'm not gonna say popular, because it's not popular in most people's heads. But it is becoming more used now again because of the Texas Sun's deteriorating slides. They just don't hold up after about 4 or 5 years. They start cracking, they start deteriorating. And a simple little plastic slide ends up costing $7,000 to $10,000 versus a lifetime of a stainless steel slide. So has its pros, it has its cons. I remember sliding on them when I was a kid, and you just gotta get up quick when you get to the end. But at least we do have some shade, and we've tried to shade those areas. And I think last time we did talk about it a little bit. Before they went in, we had a thermometer to check to see what the temperatures are. And nowhere on that slide, it stayed the same temperature. It's different temperatures all over. And I think the highest point that it was like 115 in one spot. But on the actual surface, it was probably 100, 105. To 98. It's weird. I don't know how to explain it. It's got more of a rougher, not shiny as slick as it was when we were kids. It's different. And there's not a protective coat on it. It's stainless steel brush, like a brush, but it's not as hot as what we would think it was from the slides back in the day.
No, but I'm just thinking for staffing perspective, it's
Yes.
probably gonna self-regulate itself in the summer because you can keep your kids out for like 45 minutes.
Yes, we have gone to where we've got it in the works that's going right now to council to actually put a permanent fence around it. There's still decisions on, are we just doing around a playground, but then they want to have a good green space that's fenced in, or do we just fence the whole thing off all the way around as far as we can? Then there's concerns, well, then they can't get to the creek. Well, there's concerns that I don't want my kid going to the creek. I don't want to have to watch 3 kids when I'm out here and one gets away to the creek. So we're just trying to get it figured out. But there is a permanent fence, and when the permanent fence goes in, the entryway will probably have a shade where our staff has to stay there, and it'll be a permanent shade structure for entryway.
We'll provide water and relief and stuff like that for them, so that way they can continue to stay hydrated.
Yes. And one of the things y'all might hear, and it's not on this list, so I'm gonna jump off.
It's
Just
that
a
orange.
little bit. Oregon turf area,
Mhm.
just so y'all know, we decided to lock it down. We've had a lot of vandalism there.
What now?
Oregon turf, the AstroTurf little mini soccer field.
Oh, okay, okay.
We have shut it down. We've had a lot of destructive stuff going on. Whether it be from just breaking into it, turn wrought iron up to get in, get out, to breaking into the electrical box and things like that. It's happened multiple times. So Tuesday, they did it again and we shut it down yesterday. So just if y'all hear anything, we're not letting people play or we're doing this. You've been a bad kid, we're gonna, No, I don't mean it that, y'all understand what I'm saying. So
Well, we have some,
they're adults.
we're doing repairs too. I mean, we gotta fix the issues. There's a lot of places in the wrought iron that need repair
Yes.
and,
Electrical.
and the electrical. So we just decided it made sense to go ahead and just close until we made the repairs. We've talked internally about how we manage that area. And so we'll keep the board posted on if we have any changes to that. I mean, currently it's just, when it's open, it's open. We don't have any kind of reservation or any of that kind of stuff. It's just open all the time. So, what's challenging, and it's similar to Hoya, is when you have, the use after school gets out in the afternoons and also into the evenings. And we had select teams using it. And it really wasn't meant for that. It was mainly meant for open play. And it's challenged us, because we're all about open play. You know, that's why we build things, is to just have people be able to utilize it. So it's hard when we have to, well, we feel like we want to restrict it in any way. So anyway, we're thinking through that as well. So maybe when we do reopen it, we might have some different strategies to kind of look at, but
We designed it and built it for the kids that live in the neighborhood. Every morning they played on a hockey rink. They play soccer when it was supposed to be inline hockey rink. It was hardly ever used. All that used it was the kids every morning and every afternoon. Might be on a Saturday, one team might show up to inline skate, but it mainly was for soccer. So we did it for the kids and now it's been abused by adults. And they run the kids off and we feel as staff, we can't have that to the kids. So we're trying to deter some folks away.
And I'm also looking into the funding of this location. Was it funded with grant money? Are there any, CIP stipulations that would restrict me from closing it and only opening it for residents only? No team usage. So even though I'm a resident, if my child is on a soccer team, like I can't take the whole soccer team because I'm a resident. And so I'd like to see mine and Jennifer's kids go out and kick a ball together, like community play, get to know your neighbors and the soccer field aspect, not necessarily to train for your next game moves. And so currently working with Cheyenne, our grant coordinator, to see kind of the back history on how we paid and funded this park. So that way I can then get with the team on how we wish to proceed with some type of a reservation. We won't charge that's not going to be something that we're talking. When we say reservation, we don't mean charging the residents, but just a way to be able to know who's in our park and to know that sometimes damages happen overnight, but if council or city manager gets with us and is like, hey, what's going on with the park? Why so much money being spent and fixing it? We can have a better explanation of what we're capturing, who's our visitors, where are they coming from? So we're in that phase.
So people were breaking in and turning the lights on, that's what they were doing?
They're prying the box that they're either pulling the screws out of the electrical box that's locked, or they're prying it, they'll pull the boxes out. We double locked it. They still pulled the screws out of the corner. And this time they stuck their hands into, I believe it's 400 and something volts for the lights because they weren't working, and ripped all the wires out,
Oh, my God.
trying to get them to come on. We have a transformer that seems to keep failing, but when we have electrician out, it doesn't fail. It works just fine. But then in the evening, for some reason, it decides that it doesn't want to put enough power to trip the contactor to kick the lights on, but you can physically push the contactor and it works. But when the electrician comes out, it's A-OK.
So someone decided to tempt fate and try to electrocute
They've
themselves?
done this more than once.
Now, so you're
So-
not, you're saying it's not necessarily vandalism, it's more,
It's vandalism. When they break
well, I'm
into
talking
the,
about youth
when
vandalism.
they break into the box and they rip the
Well-
wires out and they do everything else, that's vandalism.
Right, but I'm thinking more of adolescent or youth, youth.
It's
vandalism.
adults.
Yeah, these are.
Yeah, that's adult.
It's adults that seem to think they know, think they're a electrician and wanna try to.
So do we just take the lights out and convert it to a daylight facility?
That would be good, but it got locked yesterday. As I said, we have some holes in the fence where they busted out the panels and then we actually, one of her staff and me, when I left City Hall last night, we had it all fenced off. We had temporary fence in those holes to keep anybody from getting in and they still went in. And we had signs up, park closed. Police were involved because they're trespassing at that point.
Mhm.
Everything was good. One of our staff went to make sure Hoya was locked up at the gate in the evening at 10 o'clock to get everybody out. As he goes by, there's people in there again. And they're playing because Orange Good 4 is on, so they get enough light, so they're able to play. And so they're gonna play. When we were building it, they actually pulled their cars up on top of the park and had lights shining out there so they could play soccer on.
Those are adults.
Yes, ma'am. So it's police. So we go through it all and our guys go through a lot of stuff. Her staff goes through a lot of things, trying to run these off and they're not pleasant people sometimes.
They're not, they don't willingly leave.
Oh, no.
Probably.
That's what we don't know. So moving forward with some type of reservation system, we can then it's gonna be locked until we unlock it for your reservation to come in. And then it'll be locked as soon as your reservation is over.
Police did show up. They did let them know they were trespassing, but if you're not there, they're still gonna try to come back. So the guys temporarily fixed the fence today by welding some stuff in there till we can actually get in there and put the heavy duty panels in that we already have in there. So,
Now, I did the review of Orange Good,
yes, ma'am.
and Orange Good is an absolutely beautiful park. The baseball fields were meticulous. I think you have 2 or 4 large trash bins at the turf. The turf was covered in bottles, food wrappers,
And nothing was in the trash
and
can.
they could not be bothered to take 4 steps outside.
Every morning,
And
every morning.
I just looked at it and went, this isn't Farmer's Branch.
There's sometimes pizza boxes and it is a snow of water bottles that our ball field staff does to clean up. So
Now, are these like select teams that are
they're grown adults.
just, okay, just
They're
men and
anywhere,
they're playing?
they're anywhere, they're pretty much 16 to 35 years old.
So it's like an adult league.
It's whoever comes out there. They're,
They could be running leagues. We don't know. We're not
we
checking.
just don't know. It's open play.
Well, when I say adult league, I'm talking about just adult.
Say 7 o'clock at night after dinner and wanted to kick a ball around, he would not be able to do it because the 16 to 35-year-olds who can be intimidating
There you go.
won't let him near. the
That is
turf.
correct. That is correct.
Acceptable.
Yeah, that's not
It is-
used for what
It
it's
is,
meant.
it is a public park. We've tried multiple things. We are trying, to be able to enforce some of the things that we're trying to do, you have to pay somebody to be there at this time, all the time. Or
With the gun.
you can't do it. Well, there was her staff member and me, and it was 30-something men that I had to run out of there last night, and there was choice words and everything else, and I'm an old man and I need to go back to the sane asylum and everything else, because there was no verbal bad mouth coming out of mine. I just said, hey, I don't care how you got in, I don't care how you get out, but off the field.
Mhm.
And who are you? This is who I am, now off. But once the police turned the corner, they got out.
Yeah.
So,
They-
All right.
Yeah, they understand.
Mhm.
but we're trying, just so y'all know. Then you,
Yeah,
Okay.
I'm gonna turn this to Jeff, but I just have one thing. All of you, did you get the invite for the venue preview?
Looking forward to it.
We were out there today. They are like blowing and going out there. So I'll let just kind of brief you all on how that's going.
Yes, so we are, they call like the checklist. We're kind of almost to that phase. There are some last minute things that Lynette's doing a fantastic job along with Gadberry and Michael. Going through here, we got the Nana windows in, Nana walls in. And those are, you see them in your photo. Oh gosh, sorry. Up there on the TV, but on my printed out PowerPoint. Those are in there nicely. And then there is some not sheetrock, but like cardboard kind of where the doors will go once those get placed in. And then we've got water running in the facility, and we're this close to getting electricity, getting Lynette to go and flip the magic switch. She's so excited for that. We have, mirrors in the restrooms, mirrors in the bride room, the groom room, putting some wall sconces. I saw a couple of those up today. Lynette's got a lot of her furniture that's being delivered next week. The big nice chandeliers that you guys remember seeing in the renderings, they're there. Those should be installed sometime late Monday, so that will be there when you guys go to the event on the 30th. There'll still be, some little finishes and touches there. It's just a soft preview type of event, so it's not going to be the full shebang, but it is in a presentable state. The landscaping our parks team will start working on the landscaping probably right after the grand event. So just to kind of set y'all's expectations when you walk up. What else?
How long is that event that night?
It's just gonna be.
An hour.
An hour, okay.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
And
We'll
what's
do a
the May
dedication
4th?
And all that stuff at a later time.
Okay, what's the May 4th?
That's the R.L. Turner High School's 50th reunion.
Okay.
So it has to be done.
Yeah, and Lynette's done a great job communicating with them, and so we're working with them and the expectations, making sure we meet their, minimum expectations, of course. The Farmers Branch way, we always go above and beyond. So Lynette is working really, really hard to make sure that everything is just perfect and in its place for you guys to come out on the 30th, and then she's got a big event May 4th, and then she's got a couple of already stacked up corporate events going on before her big May 26th wedding.
I was gonna say, that's really when you want it all, just
Yes.
absolutely
Yes.
perfect.
It's kind of hard to see on the picture, but
Yeah, great looking facility on the outside.
Mhm.
and we're actually in it today, and those walls that move that Jess was talking about, that's kind of what you're looking at. Those walls come open,
Mhm.
but just the view of the meadow from that vantage point, that's the view that'll sell a lot of weddings for that facility. So,
Okay.
and the ability, if the weather's nice, to be able to open that patio up, I think will be really good for that.
And the
I was
flooring
impressed.
too, yeah.
It was hard to see because they had, before the walls, and those walls just got put in last week.
Mm.
But before it was just plywood. You couldn't see anything yet. And today I was like, wow, and it's all green now, so it's just, I don't know. It was impactful today to be able to see that. And it's good that they got a good picture of it because you can kind of really see. But hopefully all of you can try and maybe come out next on the 30th. So.
Dumb question. I walked it today with one of my dogs. And the beautiful patio and whatever, is there going to be some hardscape below the patio? Easing into the meadow, and then at some point, are you gonna put exterior like string lights or whatever kind of thing?
One of our staff members drew up and has the drawings of it, and I don't know if y'all ever saw the conceptual boards that from 2 years ago.
Yeah.
Some of y'all with the landscape, they tried to match a lot of that. There's some spots on it that weren't landscape, so we're trying to landscape everything that at least faces the brick pathway. I didn't like it because it was just gonna be grass and concrete, so I wanted some landscape. Everything around the front's gonna be landscape, everything below the glass there's a stairway that goes down with a concrete landing. Coming from that concrete landing, it goes out probably 6 to 8 feet. It's like a little small patio. It comes off of that and then wraps back around the the trick that's gonna be here is they haven't started doing any of the backfill work on that south side of the building. And there's a whole lot of dirt work that needs to be brought up to get that to look right. So it's gonna pretty much what we're hoping is the flower beds pretty much kind of transition off at kind of an angle. And it'll be like different types of grasses and some other types of plants that gives good color and try to make it look the best.
That's good. Any other questions?
Now, there might be a tree we might take down that's blocking the view. It's an old cedar tree.
I guess that's probably because it's on that venue with, Disney Drive Live and other events being out there. Is that basically just being blocked off date wise? So they don't reserve on those, or are they gonna do dual events?
I think, well, right now we're coordinating with so Historical Park Events Team and the Event Center are all having to be on the same page, because that's the challenge of this being on that property. So they're coordinating calendars right now to make sure we're not, conflicting, especially with the big events, like we got bluegrass going on, we can't have a wedding going on. It's just not gonna work. So, yeah, and I think for some of those large events, we're gonna try and utilize this facility. I mean, I can totally see that, if we did some VIP type things that we typically would do, like the tents, if we use this. So I know that's something Special Events Team was talking about doing.
So they also talked like if doing it with the bluegrass. I don't know if y'all remember how they set up a big stage to feed how they have to feed the musicians and stuff. Well, they're kind of looking at possibly doing the same thing on the inside of there, but allowing the folks to that want to meet all the musicians and stuff to possibly buy a package deal where they can eat with them and intermingle with them, kind of do it.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, so yeah, I'll try to block the Farmers Branch event dates.
Yes.
Makes sense.
Right.
Okay, Branch Connection.
We're moving along in the branch connection. We're about a couple of weeks out from finding out if the bond will be passed or not. And so that'll kind of give us a different direction and expand the move-in date that we currently have projected for August. If that needs to be pushed out, and then the staff will work on then second phase plan for their classes and breakfasts. And so part staff's continuing to work with the contractor on a regular basis. We meet every week via Teams call. Jackie also goes through there, if they need anything from him, or he has any questions, or to take construction pictures. The staff continue to work. They're working with the church called, what is it called?
It's First Baptist Church.
Right by
Farmers
City
Branch,
Hall.
The one by City Hall.
Okay.
And so that's where they'll be located starting in May. They'll host all their classes, since the rec center will be full of summer camp kiddos. We'll be over there hosting all of the classes. Jackie will be over there. They just hired a new supervisor, and so we'll be sure to bring them to the May board meeting so y'all can meet Kevin. So yeah.
Any questions about Branch Connection? Okay, we've already talked about Mercer Park and Squire Park. Does anybody have anything else related to those that you've thought of?
So I got a question for you. So here in the gym, we're for about a month, there's a process where we're renovating the gym. And I'm just curious, approximately how much did that cost? Just curious, ballpark.
I would say so we had to also we had 2 HVAC systems on the roof for the gymnasium that were completely out. Thankfully, it was winter, and so nobody could feel the difference. So between that and then the flooring and the bleachers, I believe it was about 50,000.
Okay.
Yeah.
So question I have for you, I think it's great. Yeah, I work out of this gym 5 days a week, and I love this facility. It's fantastic. It's really just amazing. So I was just a little bit surprised. This is not meant as a complaint, just kind of really more of a question is, we talk about all these different things we're doing these locations, and this is a $50,000 thing. It's gonna take a month to do. Just curious, how come that was never listed on this event? We talk about stuff that's gonna happen in all these different locations. Just curious.
It went to council last month. So this is what we've considered phase two. And so it's been talked about a lot, I would say, over the last 2.5 years, because, no, this is actually phase three. Phase two was upstairs, downstairs was phase one. But because, and so we wanted to also include the gymnasium and then the exterior of the building. Because that cost was gonna be significant, we decided to leave the exterior alone and just focus on what really needed, which was the gymnasium. Also with the Branch Connection hosting a lot of their classes in the gym, the floor was just getting scraped up and it was just getting worse and worse and worse. So it was about time to do that. And the resurfacing that we do, we actually do that on a yearly basis. And so we do it once a year. This year, because we took out the bleachers, it took a little bit longer because they kind of just went through and shaved everything and kind of just started from there. But normally that's not the cost, because we won't remove bleachers. We won't be buying a new one wall of bleachers, and we won't be like shaving the floor down significantly. So.
Okay.
Okay.
Just once again, I'm not complaining. I'm glad it's being done. Just like, it just kind of, I was in here working out one morning, said, man, what's all that? And then just saw the sign, said, oh, okay. That must have been on a thing that I missed somehow.
We'll be sure to make sure that in the future, that we bring that to
And
y'all
I think
before.
what's challenging too, so some of these, items work through our facilities department. They actually do the contracting for some of this work. So, I mean, they're keeping rec staff informed, so we'll just make sure we get you guys all updated when we have some major stuff going on next time. We'll get it on your radar. Not a problem.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then next question, and I don't want to make sure I'm not speaking out of turn here. Can I now give feedback on the Denton Drive thing? Is that
That's the
okay?
next one.
1 minute.
Okay.
Wait, hold on. Wait, before we, almost,
Almost.
Ms. Margaret had a question.
Margaret,
I've had the question asked, are the bleachers gonna be retractable? Or are they gonna be just sit down, they're retractable, so we can push them up?
The ones that.
bleacher, the new ones.
The new ones?
Yes, they're retractable.
Okay.
Okay.
And then Ashley Munoz is also working on a temporary solution because the bleachers actually won't arrive until late July, June, July. And so she's working on a plan to get our athletic tournaments. We have those like team lawn chair thingies. And so we thought about bringing those over. That way we didn't have to purchase anything for just a month of use for when we have volleyball, when we have pickleball, and you guys want to set your stuff down and not just on the floor. So we're looking at alternatives that we can have in there. Meanwhile, there's no bleachers.
Okay. Any other questions?
I just
Jennifer?
want to make a comment. Whoever did the PowerPoint, let them know a really good job.
Rachel
Incredibly
Johnson,
well done.
she is great.
Yeah, it's
So-
incredibly well done.
We started talking about this be kind of with your, instead of just having a static verbal. So she created this and we're showing it on here because we want to see, but the goal, we're gonna actually have this in the packet for you next time.
She did.
And then
really
we'll have it both places. We just didn't get it done in time to get in the packet. So,
Yeah.
yeah, we'll get this on. So so instead of really having your, you'll actually have the graphic instead of, so, because it's the same information on the verbal, on the written side. So,
It's effective.
yeah, it's really good.
Okay, we'll move on to C7, which is an update from any of you all on parks, programs, events, or facilities. All right, David.
Now I get it.
It's always our second to last one.
I'm new here, so just slap me whenever I step, get out of order. No, I thought it was an amazing event. Both the bands were fantastic. Look, I'm of a certain age, the Beatles and the Elton Johns, and both groups were really, really good. We've gone to previous events over at the other location. This was a great venue, really, really well done. And once again, the only thing I would suggest is, and perhaps it's because there was just more people that showed up than we thought, but there just wasn't enough food vendors there for that event. Now, the next event, you could have half as many people and maybe it'd be perfect. I don't know. I don't know how you can really predict how many people are gonna show up. The other thing too is my wife gave feedback on this. So, let me describe where we park. So when you walk out of the event, you turn right and you walk a ways down and then off to the left, that's where the parking is. So my wife was just saying, she felt uncomfortable. It was kind of dark. It's kind of dark when you come out of the facility and you walk and there's a period of about 200 yards where it's kind of dark. And then it's, once you get to the parking lot, everything's lit up. She says, she said, I'm glad I'm walking with you and not by myself. So, to me, I didn't notice it. It was perfectly fine, didn't have an issue, but this is a female saying,
Was it after the bridge?
It's during it. It's that
I think
whole
it's before you
segment. I'm
get to
the
the
same
bridge,
way.
actually. It's kind of before you get to the bridge.
The
and I
gap
like the
between the
bridge.
gate and the bridge, maybe?
There,
Yeah.
there's a section there that sometimes, because of the live oak trees, there's the lights are up in, so it really, and then sometimes we end up putting a light tower there. So I'm just trying to figure out if maybe the light tower didn't get put there, or it was in a different location.
I did
So
not see a light tower.
I don't
Okay.
know. All I know is she said, you know, I said, don't worry about it. I got it. I was, because what it is, I dropped her off. She went and got a place to sit. Then I went and parked. Then I came back because it was daylight then, but then we came out, it was dark. So she didn't really know where I parked. I'm walking along there. She says, it's kind of dark here. I go, well, okay, well, maybe I'll try to mention something about it.
Yeah.
It wasn't a big deal, but you know.
The events that I've gone to and have walked that walk, there are more Farmers Branch police cars along that road, just sitting there. And so it is dark, but everywhere you look in the parking
I
lots.
didn't notice any for this. event.
Okay, well, then it might have been the one time that they weren't, but
Yeah.
I've
And
always
it was
seen,
extra dark. I agree with her. It was extra dark this time, because that was one of my notes.
Mark, don't y'all usually put a light tower kind of in that median somewhere along there?
It, depending on the event, depending on how long the event's gonna go, normally they're on the north side of the bridge, we'll have a light tower.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the south side, we will have a light tower.
Right.
It also depends on where they have the gate to let people in.
Sure.
I know it's always dark on the bridge because it doesn't get the light. So we'll check with the special event staff, and that way we'll figure out if we need to get another light tower out there
Yeah.
to put it, and it's just renting another one.
Right.
And making sure we have them in those two locations. Those old globe lights that are on there, I don't know why they haven't changed them to modernize them. We tried to about 20 years ago. They want to do it for free, but everybody liked the globes. Well, they passed their time of brightness,
Mhm.
and it
now there's
kind of need
LED lights.
to move along with it. They look cool, but they just don't put out the light that they need to.
Right. Jennifer, you had comment on something? too,
Yeah,
didn't you?
so, with the crazy turnout, I mean, is that more than there's ever been?
Yes.
'Cause
He said there was about 2,000.
it was a lot of
It was a
people
lot
out
of
there,
people,
the
yeah.
whole meadow, it felt like got filled. There's already precedent at the aquatic center. Could you do, if you're not having enough food out there, the, fee to bring in a cooler? If you're having that many people? Cause there were a lot of kids out there and families, and people are gonna buy from the food truck if that's what they wanna do, but if you have that many people, that's another way to recover some cost and have enough food out there.
I would say, and I'm speaking for myself,
Sure.
I would say that they due to the fact Denton Drive Live was always in a condensed area,
Right.
you had a certain amount of people that showed up, and I don't think, I'm not gonna say they didn't plan for it. Oh, I'm not gonna say that, but I think they had a bigger turnout because it's at the historical park and because it's more roomier.
Sure.
So they're really looking in to start having most of those music things at the historical park and kind of abandoning, and I don't mean permanently, but for right now, abandoning Denton Drive because of the construction and everything else to keep it where it's more
I think it's a better
condensed.
venue. I really do.
It was
Yeah, I saw, the Blue and Bluegrass. Perfect. Now granted, they had the music coming from the other side, so that just proved it worked either way. Like Blue and Bluegrass was on the one end of the park. This thing the other night was on the other end. I mean, you can set up either way. I think it's a great venue. Really, it's fantastic.
You definitely have room to spread out.
That's what made me think of the cooler fee, because if people were able to bring, again, the people who are gonna buy from the food trucks are going to.
Right.
But for those that maybe can't or whatever,
think
a
it's-
$10 cooler fee is a lot easier than.
Yeah, and I know too, a lot of vendors, especially with Halloween in the park, and that's a large event. Special events team said, there's not a lot of vendors that even want to do Halloween in the park, because to them, it's not enough. And so that's something else that they have to work against as vendors, especially with Denton Drive Live having low numbers, and they're like, okay, we might have this amount of people, and they're like, it's not worth it for us to, haul our truck over there and pay staff and all the, odds and ends. So I think, and I know there was like 2 or 3 that kind of filled out, so you would have had 6 or 7 food trucks that didn't drive live, but it's kind of the nature of the beast. They don't all always show.
And I gotta tell you, once again, brainstorming, all ideas are good. I actually think you can push back from people if they start having to pay $10 for a cooler. I just think
I don't think they get to bring a cooler right now, so that would give them the opportunity.
Well,
to
I will show you, people kind of sneak stuff in, I think, like a bottle of water, or whatever, and then people are drinking, you know what I mean, just,
And those people will still sneak things in.
yeah, so.
Spirits?
Not quite.
Spirits?
I think there's probably been one or two, I've heard, I had a friend one time, I heard they did that, but,
Well, I think this event, I think they allow them to bring in their own stuff, because like I'm diabetic, so I have to have kind of my snacks everywhere I go. And of course I came into the staff side, but a lot of people, and I was out there just like doing my crafts, listening to the good music, not actually working. I saw people coming in with like little buggies and like little bags, so.
yeah, I just don't think.
A
Charging.
buggy?
Oh,
That's a lot of food.
Well, I had my buggy, but it had like all my chairs and my craft stuff and my blanket, so
It
not a
was
lot.
a great event, it really was, very good.
I think we have 3 more. So we have another one in May, then in June, and I think we have one after the 4th of July.
I think you're right,
activities. They have 3 more left to do. So, yeah. And
And these were two very popular venues.
yeah, and I
Elton
think
John
the
and
2
the
groups
Beatles.
being there also
Yeah,
contributed. I know Hard Nights Day's been around for a while and they've played all over and they have a pretty good following. So,
Mhm.
They're good.
They do.
that probably brought a lot of people as well. So,
Thank
Margaret?
people yelling encore, so.
and the weather was good and that always
Yeah.
helps
Mhm.
too. So.
Well, they got rained out last time, those same 2 groups were gonna play last time they got.
I think so. I think you're right. They had to reschedule this one,
Yeah.
correct?
Margaret,
I have two questions. One, this last week, Monday and Tuesday, I think, there was hazmat and environmental
Oak Brook?
trucks working in Oak Brook.
Yes.
What was that about?
That was they had an oil spill. Wasn't a whole, I don't know how big it really was, because we're gonna give it to you third hand, we're getting it, I've got it second hand. Or maybe mine was third hand and I'm giving you fourth hand, because it went through several people for me to get the information.
So,
There was a little bit of an oil spill. The precautionary, they had it, the city, Public Works hired a company to come out and clean up the stuff. To be on the extra safe side, they went ahead and took the sock boots down and stretched it across the creek on the concrete channel and left them there, and they were gonna leave them there for multiple days in case there was any residual that still got down in the creek. Here a while back where AT&T and Ryder
It's
is,
Beltline and Garden Brook.
as Vintage or something like that, Garden Brook, and then you got Vintage that goes off. It's been several months ago or even a year ago, they had the same thing kind of happen, but it was a car wreck, a transformer fell down. The transformer oil started getting into the drainage system that goes to the creek. Well, Encore hired people to clean that up, so you're still gonna get some type of residual that goes through. They can't get it 100% up because it leaches into the concrete. Or when it rains or you get more water, it starts surfacing back out of the concrete. So they have the socks down in there, the buoys, however you wanna call it, that suck up the stuff. And they've been coming out kind of daily to change those out, catching any of the oily stuff on top of the water.
and the second is accolades to our lawn people, our people who work doing landscaping and all that. Workers, I love everyone and we talk to them all the time.
Thank you.
Just so you all know, one of our, we had, I don't know what kind of rodeo it's called, but it's the rodeo for the parks and rec.
Equipment rodeo, the state equipment rodeo.
Equipment rodeo.
Yes.
And they had it this last year down south. And we had 5 people who went, and one of ours got second place in the state. And so I think we need to, know those kinds of things, that we have great people. We won many state awards down there.
He has gone down multiple times. It's Roberto Sarabia.
Yes.
And May 7th, he will be, they will, at the first part of the council, they will be kind of honoring him and just tell a little bit about how many, because he's been down there. I can't tell you how many times he's won that.
He's won many, many times.
Yes.
He's disappointed when he doesn't win first.
Yes, he is.
But
I
we've
start-
also had other people win beside him.
Yes.
We've even had one that had some little invention thing to do the mowing for our medians. And I
Mhm.
can't remember who that was, but anyway.
There was Augustine Aguirre, He went down also there and did the mowing competition. He didn't fare very well. There was another guy, our other group that did the trailer backing. Normally they do very well, but they knocked a couple of tennis balls over when they were going through there. And it's an obstacle course where you have to hook up a trailer, you have to drive around in a circle, and then you have to back up. And you can't hit any cones, and you also can't, there's a wood deal sitting on your trailer with a tennis ball on it. So it's timed and points are deducted. So they go around in a figure eight deal and then come back around and they gotta back the trailer up without knocking anything down. The blower competition that Roberto won at, it is kind of like playing croquet with a backpack blower and a tennis ball, because you have these wires bent and you're running as fast as you can and low to the ground to keep the tennis ball going. So you've got to get it, and the fastest person wins it. And there's the backhoe competition, the mowing obstacle. And then plant ID. Tony Derrick went for that. And, I don't remember what play. I don't think he placed. But
We have a
normally-
group photo of us.
Normally
so
he
we'll
does
post
very
that.
well. He does very well. The trailer backing guys normally do very well. They just had a bad luck this time.
So this is just to back up real quick, this is the Texas Recreation and Park Society. It's the
Right.
kind of state governing,
State.
it's the governing body for the state. Well, there's even, there in the DFW area, we have a region.
Mhm.
So the people we sent to the state competition actually won at the regional. That's how they get to go down to
Yes.
state. So I guess Roberto won. at the
I believe he won first at the regional, and then he went to the state and he got second. And our other guys that went, they won first. Actually, I think they take first and second in that region, and then they send you to state. But you can actually send more if you want to pay more, but you can build multiple teams to compete in every one of the event, but we send one team to go, so.
Yeah, our city won't pay more to pay.
Do what now?
Our city won't pay you more to pay
Well,
what you want. So
I guess maybe we ought to invite y'all next time we have the one
that
internal.
was my next.
We have an internal one where-
Watch it when it's local.
Yes,
Yeah.
well,
That's cool.
we have an internal, we actually have an internal rodeo
Okay,
where our guys have to compete against one another to be able to go to the region. And then the region, you win, then you get to go to state, and that's how. This past February, it was in Corpus Christi.
it moves around. It's-
And then a couple of years ago, it was Abilene. It moves around to different cities, and I think the year before it was Denton.
And the females in the department also participate in their,
I wouldn't go, I didn't want to sound bad, but I think a lady won the mowing competition, believe it or not, so. And it's a zero turn, and she was getting after it, and didn't hit any barrels, didn't hit any picnic tables or cones, and she was getting white smoke with them tires. So, there's females that compete along with males, and it's a good time for everybody.
Great.
So at some point when it's here, I would like for the board to be invited. I mean, I really enjoyed watching.
We spent a while, but we used to host every now and then. That's kind of the punishment for winning first place. If you win first place, you had to host it.
Ah,
So we hosted it kind of like a couple of years in a row. But it really takes a lot to host it, because you have to get the sponsors to help pay for all the food for all the different cities coming that's in your region. And put it all together. It's
A lot of work.
a lot of work.
Congratulations, you won.
Yeah.
Yes,
Accolades to you all, y'all did a great job.
thank you very much.
Any other feedback on any other events or, yes?
My daughter runs Rawhide and she's concerned about all the trees that are coming down.
Yes.
So I talk with Ben a lot because I'm at the community garden a lot. And he told me there's a whole big borer issue. And as a group, we're a Parks and Rec board, but we tend to focus a lot on recs. But knowing stuff like that that's going on the park side, I almost wonder if, we should have a portion every week, just what's going on in this park, what's going on, and maybe we lead it at the parks that we visited. That, hey, I was at Orange Good or whatever. It's sort of imputed into this section. But not always, because we don't always see everything, but you guys know, hey, we've got a borer issue and we're gonna have to take down a ton of trees.
I honestly, I'll tell you right now with the trees, and I think maybe I didn't cover it last month when we kind of talked about it. I've talked multiple with different people, and I apologize if I got that wrong last time when we kind of discussed it. I know rawhide is one of the worst, okay? We lost a lot of trees, and it had to do with a lot of winter. It had to do with the drought last year, and some of that is on us because we were trying to save water. And when that triple digits hit, it was bad. We turned on the water, we tried watering, but due to the multiple winters of these last 4 hard winters, due to the fact of a drought, and then we had 2012, we had a drought, had bad winter, and then these 4 all in a row, it has caused these trees to be weak and acceptable to get bugs. And the elm trees, most of those are almost, they're big, it's the American elms, and some of the cedars have really had a hard time this year. And those are the ones that have been coming down. And there's probably there between, well, all of rawhide, the street rawhide, from Longmead to Webb Chapel, there's been several that we lost. And we've got a lot of work internally that we need to do on our landscape. With these winters, and I think with the winters, due to the fact that it goes way back to where there needs to be more planting and planting.
Can help with that.
Yes.
And with the awareness of it in the community and try and get you guys more help to do that.
I think too, I like your idea. I'd like to be able to get you guys, some more updates on a regular basis. So I just gotta figure out who we can get to help with that, even if it was something just like what Rachel produced.
You know, there's what, 29 parks? We keep adding.
No, 31, I think now.
30,
31,
31, 32.
something like that.
And you want me to tell you a little bit about myself? I grew up and I was raised here. My dad came back from Vietnam. He bought the Dairy Queen on Valwood. I was born here in Farmers Branch. I went to every school here. I started working here at the city when I was 17 years old, pulling weeds and picking up trash, and I worked my way all the way up to where I am now. I've got several different certifications and license, and this city means a world to me. I get emotional when I start talking about Farmers Branch because it's my hometown. Jessica, she's kind of the same situation. Rob, so as far as what you have right now, we're very emotional people when it comes to Farmers Branch, and we love it. There's been some neglect probably ever since 2010, 2012, because focuses have been in different places. We overpopulated, and I hope this doesn't set wrong with anybody, but we kind of overpopulated with landscape areas, and it's beautiful, but we don't have the manpower to maintain. Y'all are the park board. We've got some ideas because we want to redo Valwood. Okay. I want to put turf in, but I want to put plant beds to ease up, to work with the staff that we have. It will be mowing, it will be landscape, but it won't be a whole street full of landscape and jasmine. So that's where the manpower goes, is pulling weeds, trying to take care of those things. So we want to try to break some things up, but ease it so that we still can maintain the things and not overpopulate. But I don't want to look like a city next door and be all gravel, decomposed granite and cactus, or red yucca. Red yucca is nice, but I don't like it. I think after a while it is what it is. But we're my managers have been really looking at a bunch of this stuff, and we're working together trying to get some thoughts and ideas. And we're about to try to bring in a guy once he gets one park done for us and try to get his vision and let him work with what we're trying to do. But There's been a lot of neglect in several years because we just didn't have staffing levels to keep up with. And we're working on that as well. So, and we feel that they're listening to us, so it should go good.
Again, anything I can do to help, I can't speak for everybody else, but I think I know everybody else. We'll do it. We're emotional about this city too.
Yes.
We chose to live here for a reason. And we'd like to optimize the city, and we'd like to optimize you guys, and we'd like to optimize your lives so that you don't fret about it.
We have some very prideful men that work for us. And they really care about the city. And that's where we're at. We have a good group of guys and they're willing to do it. It's just, we've got to manage and kind of change and do some things to alleviate and just don't overpopulate it with everything else, because in probably since 2000, we've added 38 different properties. We've lost, but we've kind of gained people back. We were at a low point, we've been at a high point. So we're steadily getting there, but we're still building, but we still have to maintain. So that's kind of what we're working on. So
I think, Barbara, just you all being advocates for Parks and Rec, that's why you're on this board. So any time you're at, and that doesn't mean going to every council meeting, but I think just being an advocate in your neighborhoods, going to the events, and a lot of the insight you all brought back tonight on something, that's great. That's good for us. I mean, I was at a city where, before I came here, where I'd go to, we'd have a meeting, talk about an event, and nobody would go. You know, people weren't going. And so it's like, well, we're kind of doing this for you all, and you don't go to the event. So I like that a lot of you'd like to go and participate, because that really helps us. So, you know, I feel like it's, you are the citizen advocates for Parks and Rec, and that's why you know, that's why these two are here and I'm here, because you guys, this is an important board, I feel, for that advocacy, and we want to support that. So, it's really up to you all. You guys, whatever you feel like you best gets the word out, and we can help with that. So, I mean, I know you're not solving it today, but just, I think a big part of this, you all, is just getting out in the community, you know, being a part of what we're doing. There's, the crews here, there's so many things going on in this department, and just having you all being able to participate, I think, is a big part of it. So.
And bear with us, because we've restructured and started it a week ago.
Parks.
Parks Department. My division, my guys, we've reorganized to try to take care of some things so people can be more concentrated on their own, kind of going back to the way we used to be set up versus to where it was just you're doing one job. I was kind of able to still my people over here, to put them over here to try to build some crews back. You know, when we were strong, we were three full-timers, one part-time on a crew that managed a property. And we've had ups and downs with the economy, where the Jeff Fullers, the Jeff Hardings, they would freeze positions. And it was great because no one lost their job, but it has to work its way back up. And we're steadily getting there, but we just had more properties that we need to manage better. And that's where we're at.
And then one last thing, sorry. Christie, who used to be on the board, posted something to Facebook about some incidents at the dog park. And it was actually in response to the Parks and Rec posting about her. But she was at the dog park, and she was outside the park, and there was a gentleman in there who had a large dog who was attacking a child. And he would go over and get the dog and bring him back away from the kid, and then he'd let him go again. And the parents are just screaming, and Christy's like, somebody called 911. She didn't have her phone. And apparently this guy brought his very large dog to the park to try and break the dog from attacking children.
Makes not very much sense.
And then there was one other incident, similar, another violent incident, and she was asking, why don't we, she's asked multiple times, we've all been there, for cameras at the dog park. And she's like, you know, this guy, these people are carrying their 9-year-old, whatever, out, and this guy grabbed his dog and ran. You know, and it all happened so fast. There's no way to find him. There's no way, and there was a guy, I guess, who had 2 Dobermans.
Hmm.
And she had her dog with her, and she's like, I don't bring my dogs in if somebody has Dobermans or an unneutered male in there. So she had 2 incidents. It is, when I saw it, it was on the turf post, Facebook post, it was in the responses. I was like, okay, that doesn't have anything to do with the turf, but I understand your concern.
Yeah, and we have gotten quotes on cameras. It's anywhere from $10,000 to $30,000. There's no data port out there, so you've got to encounter a data port, the different softwares, the wiring of everything, and it was out of our
We
budget.
also may be opening ourselves up to some liability if people are going out there with the intent of, you know, breaking their dog of a bad habit.
I would suggest if a dog attacks somebody out there to call 911.
Well, she would have, she didn't have her phone, and she didn't, again, she was outside the fence and observed this. And she doesn't know what the parents did or what so.
Okay, any other observations or anything?
Look into it, yeah.
Okay, our last item is discuss potential agenda items for future meetings. And maybe one would be if you all know you're working on a board problem or a turf problem or something, maybe just make us aware of that.
Okay.
But people do ask us, they'll say, what in the world's going on at blah, blah, blah. And we're kind of like, I don't know.
Tell you that the dog park here in another, I'm waiting till Jessica Stapp has their event. What is that event called?
Cinco de Dago.
Cinco de
Oh,
Dago.
that's-
Yeah,
You're
so
awesome.
did doggo.
I'm pretty sure
Seriously.
right after that event, we're gonna transition out of this ryegrass. And the park's gonna be closed because we are going to resod a big area out there.
Okay.
Because the last couple of years, we've had a bad deal with crabgrass and goosegrass, and it has, the weedy part has taken over. There's quite a bit of sod that's out there that needs to be redone. We've got a new machine that we bought for ball fields that we're gonna try out there that it kind of it's a leveling machine that tills it all up. And it kind of like, if there is grass there, it will like resprig it, or you can turn the vac on and it will pick it up in the vac field so you can level some places out because it's just weeds.
Okay.
And then come in and plant grass. So that should be taking place. I'm hoping. I haven't decided quite yet if I want to wait until it's just hot and people don't want to be out there anymore, or do I want to do it when I can really get the grass to establish. And it, May for Bermuda grass, and right now is really the best time, but we don't want it to look bad for the event that's going on because we've just got this timeline. But it puts some folks out because the park will be closed probably 2 weeks, 3 at the tops to get the grass established so it doesn't get beat down again. And we have a lot of people that really seem to really enjoy our dog park because we have grass, and everywhere else they go, they don't have grass. So Jessica's staff, it took a while for a lot of people to quit getting emails and other comments on Facebook, but it seems that our staff's done a great job of putting it out there. Locking the park down when it rains to try to save some of the grass where it's just, with that being an old football field, it has a different soul, and an inch rain, it sucked. So we're trying to save the grass the best we can because the dogs, they can tear it up quick, and the compaction and everything else. So that's where we're at. And I just let y'all know that dog park.
I'm kind of interested in seeing the machine at work.
Looks like a round baler.
It sounds cool.
Yes,
Like what?
a round baler.
Oh, really?
Mm-hmm.
Well, we can all come out with
Yeah.
a beverage and an umbrella.
It does its thing, and then it has a hopper that'll pick up and dump. So
Oh,
it almost looks
interesting.
like a round baler. It's called a Wiedemann.
You gonna
You gonna email us so we know?
When we can come watch?
We're watching a game.
If y'all would like
Bring
to,
our
we'll
beverage and
get
our
y'all out.
lawn chair.
Yeah.
Sit there and people think we're lost.
Yeah.
What y'all doing over there? Yeah.
Well, that's why at the Parks and Rec, what is it, Board and Commissions Dinner, I added that you guys are parkaholics, because I'm like, because they're like, send us one fun fact, and I was like, Robert, can I put this? And they're like, he's like, sure, and I'm like, they're parkaholics. So we wanted everybody to know how much you guys love your parks.
Does anybody else have anything else they want an update on or whatever on a future agenda? Okay,
Maybe a reminder of the upcoming, like the next quarter events.
I think we just have the Denton Drives,
Okay.
Denton Drives, Fishing Fun. It's the
mhm,
20, not this weekend, but the next one.
27th.
And then
Are they doing the market?
Fish and Fun, Cinco de Dago, and then we'll have, the 4th of July event. Didn't drive live and then 4th of July.
Yeah, there'll be a Denton Drive in May and June, so.
Yeah, I've been trying to block my calendar, because last year I missed Bluegrass because I didn't know about it in advance. Had a out of town trip scheduled, so
Yeah.
that's why I was thinking the next quarter. if
And
we-
Linda had sent us a calendar of
Mhm.
quarter events, so if she could even do that
Okay.
as an email, even if it's not in a
Yeah.
packet, that would be helpful.
Okay.
But yeah,
Just been trying to block them all on, because I do like to go.
And just
Talk to
feedback,
people.
I thought, going to pick up the packet was fine, that saves some money too.
Yeah, everybody get the packet okay and everything work out, okay.
yeah,
I
Good deal.
did digitally.
Good deal. It's there waiting on you.
Yeah, that's right.
I won't have time to go pick it up, so.
so. All right, anything else for future agendas? Okay, then I think we are adjourned. 8:02, I think.
Did we vote on that?
Oh, I guess we do need a motion to adjourn. Sorry, I haven't done this in a while. Thank you, Adrian. Second, Barbara. All right, all in favor, raise your hand. Aye. Any opposed? Okay, thank you. Thank you, Steve. It's been a while.